By, South Africa. Where the oceans collide against land, two elements of nature meeting face to face. And it's here that two other forces of nature come together. As in By, people from around the globe are coming face to face with one of the ocean's most exciting and mysterious creatures. For we have come to meet the great white shark. Here in By, the great white shark capital of the world, different kinds of people gather by the docks from every shore in the world, all in charged anticipation to see the great white. Taking their first steps of their great white adventure. Rushing out to sea just to see these sharks. Even the speed of the boats can't keep up with their eagerness to meet the great whites. All of this action is happening in the channels of Giza Rock. But these waters are known as Shark Alley. With over 60,000 Cape Fur seals, it can feel like there are more seals in rocks themselves, creating a hotspot feeding ground for the great whites. These sharks now have us following them to their waters. This fleet of shark boats taking us to Shark Alley, plunging us into the white shark's world to see them close up. This is where humans and great whites encounters begin. We have come to investigate how close we can interact with white sharks. With shark experts Andre Hartmann. Known as a shark god, this skin diving champion is one of the first people in By to free dive with great whites and open their mouths just by touching their nose. Michael Scull, one of the most knowledgeable white shark scientists with his tagging program, and Michael Watson, always pushing the envelope on great white interactions. No one may love great whites more or have got as close. These men are here due to their adoration of these sharks.
It's a very magnificent animal. Great whites for me is like the Rolls Royce of sharks. It's the big one. We haven't had 2 days the same, so life's never boring. You work with an animal like a great white shark. It's amazing.
I've got a fascination and I love all sharks. Why white sharks? Because to everybody they're represented as the top predator of the ocean. They're the top of the shark line, I would say. Beautifully, perfectly adapted to the environment. They're just beautiful animals. Well, when you see them swim around in the ocean, you're more amazed by their grace and beauty in the water than by what you usually see in movies where you see thrashing and blood. And well, the movies usually portray white sharks or sharks in general as monsters, which really when you see them in the open ocean, that's the last thing that comes to your mind. It's really more their majesty.
Great whites used to be viewed as in the movie Jaws, man-eating killing machines attacking anything. But watching them in By, we realise this is just a myth. Great whites instead being non-aggressive, mostly moving slowly and appearing placid. Cautious and shy of the boat and even the bait. Instead of a ferocious monster, we see a serene shark, astounding in its elegance, endearingly careful and intelligent. Its beauty and power giving us so much awe and excitement. Now that the cruise and Hans Bay have shown us that white sharks are not so dangerous as we thought, we can explore the closer interactions with great whites and humans. Can this lead to a closer relationship between humans and whites and benefit us both? And just how destructive is humans' behaviour towards great whites? As white sharks are not so dangerous as previously feared, Andre Hartmann and Michael Watson and their crew have taken their interactions with these sharks to a bold new level and are actually free diving with great whites, knowing that these sharks are unlikely to attack. Andre took this one stage further, with him and his marine dynamics crew actually hand feeding a white shark underwater.
We've done it only once. We did it on the bottom, on scuba. We took some chum down and we had a shark that took the bait from our hand, ducked out of the way, and the shark swam off eating it. Straight after that, it came straight back and tried it again and again and again. So we had to get out of there. We didn't have any more bait. I think to do it once, just to show it can be done, but I wouldn't like to do it all the time. It can become a bit scary.
So when a white shark sees us swimming with them, how do they identify us? Does their eye and brain recognise us as actual human beings? Recognising our different physiology, intelligence, or even emotions?
I don't think they identify the humans in the water. I think they do not know what humans are, so they react to us the same as if aliens comes down to Earth. We're not going to know what they are. So to them, you are competition for them. And they are very afraid because they don't like feeding where there's another predator presence in the water. If they do take notice of the humans, it's out of fear. If you react like these animals prey, they're going to treat you that way. If you react like another predator, they're going to treat you that way. They do not know what you are. They're trying to box you in with what you are.
You know, you can free dive with a shark. The shark is a curious animal, but at the end of the day, he looks at you from the top of the food chain, wondering if you could be part of his next meal. They are wild animals.
One of great white's most exciting mysteries is why they open their mouths just by us touching their nose. But what are the reasons for this fascinating behaviour?
You would get one animal that relaxes when it comes closer. They physically trying to get at the bait. You retrieve the bait and put your hand there. The animal's blind, so it thinks that's the bait. And if it opens its mouth, normally dead things fall into its mouth. And of course your hand's not gonna.
Michael and Andre doing this a lot. But Michael's brother, Mornay Hardenberg, had a female shark doing this all day with him. Sometimes without bait. So what would keep one shark doing this all the time?
Some of the sharks we call players relaxes enough that they're more curious in what's going on there than actually wanting to feed, and that's the animals that keep on coming back. No bait, no nothing, just to get that sensation, to find out what it is. Maybe the sensation is pleasurable for the animal. We do not know. But I think curiosity plays a big role.
Maybe the sharks like our physical contact, as they see us with some small comprehension as actual human beings, coming to enjoy some small form of social encounter with us. But Andre doesn't think they see us this way.
What they do is they see me lying flat on the surface. They start mouthing this thing that's moving like that. It's trying to bite your reflection. So if you hold your hand close, it makes a dark spot very close to them when they come, and they often stick their nose right into your hand.
But maybe there is some form of connection in this interaction that we cannot yet see. As for what goes on when a hand touches their nose, there are conflicting theories on this. Many scientists believe that the hands covering the nose sense pores, which send signals to the brain, will stop or overload these signals, putting the sharks into a still, hypnotized trance. But Andre dismisses this theory. Because that's what they say.
Eat. What people say and what really happens is two different things.
So is
they're
that
trying to eat your hand.
when you're touching it?
Yeah. They're trying to reach it, but with your hand's now stuck to his nose. You go up with it. So he follows your hand. Because this piece of meat's now, what he's feeling, is stuck to his nose. So he'll come right out the water to try and reach it. The first time it happened, they thought we were putting in a trance. It's bullshit.
If there is some truth that the nose touch does put great whites into a trance, Michael hopes to take this to the next stage that may have potential for fascinating discoveries. Where after touching its nose, Michael hopes to turn a great white upside down, putting it into a trance-like state called tonic immobility. Like this juvenile tiger shark put into tonic immobility by the Shark Lab Science Research Unit in the Bahamas.
Tonic immobility, basically you put the shark to sleep. You can keep an animal for several minutes like that, and the animals do not die of it. We have not been able to put a white shark in tonic immobility, but that can be achieved. It would be a very, very good thing, I think. But white sharks are very big animals, they got big teeth, everybody that's got an idea about it, it's baby steps.
Scientists debate if tonic immobility can be done on white sharks, so trying this could cause them to harm us, maybe even fatally. But Michael has already done tonic immobility on tiger sharks. And other people are making advanced similar interplay with sharks, such as shark operator Eli Martinez with his skin touch method on tiger sharks, and Christina Zenato with her relaxed state technique with Caribbean reef sharks. So could tonic immobility on great whites be possible, as similar human-shark interactions are becoming astoundingly closer all the time? But if Michael can do tonic at least on smaller great whites, then this may be healthier for them, being a safer way than other methods to retrieve their blood and other samples.
The other way people get these samples is hook the animals and fight them to exhaustion and take the samples. Most of the animals seem to die from its lactic acids, and it forms basically diabetes and dies.
Killing any shark or hooking it to the surface and then doing tonic results in highly stressed blood levels, making any samples taken useless for scientific research. But tonic methods could allow white sharks to be used even for our betterment.
A lot of the work will be done on molecular level, with the blood of the animal and urines and stuff. We don't even know which sicknesses they can get or they can't get. So maybe in the natural state we can find a cure for that, diabetes and all sorts of things.
If samples have been taken from other sharks using tonic without apparent harm, can samples be taken from white sharks to help cure human diseases, like Michael says? As other live sharks with their especially strong immune system have already been used for this, such as dogfish, whose DNA, along with other tonic immobilized healthy sharks, are used to treat diseases, such as cancer. Dogfish in the Shetland Islands, safely kept in an anaesthetic tank in a tonic state, being injected with a non-lethal cancer virus, developing cancer antibodies in response. These antibodies, researched by the Science Department of Aberdeen University, Scotland, to fight human cancers, along with cancer antibodies from other sharks, as shark antibodies are thought to penetrate human cancer cells more deeply than anything else. With whites' large size and high resilience to illnesses, any life-saving potential they have is reason not to kill them as we did in the past.
Say we do find cures for some things that you can only get from these animals out of the wild, then these animals become more valuable alive than dead.
But if tonic can be done in a natural and harmless way, then maybe tonic immobility could give humans and great whites a symbiotic relationship. As rather than white sharks and humans killing each other, tonic immobility could make white sharks and humans save each other. Despite progress that humans and sharks are making together, cage diving still has criticisms which could threaten to close it down.
The biggest criticism is that cage diving is teaching the sharks to associate human with food. Without that, to disagree completely with. What's criticized here, you have bait in the water and you have humans in the water in the cage. So by feeding the shark, you can condition the sharks to associate food with humans. Which means that the next time they're going to see humans, they will want food. And if there's no food, they will attack humans. But it's not what's happening. First of all, there is not always a person in a cage. They don't get the bait often. And they're definitely not here long enough for them to actually learn that. I mean, there's no link between the cage diving operators and the shark attacks. They first of all have to outsmart the bait handler to get to the bait. A lot of the operators are trying not to let the shark get the bait. a shark sees a cage, to him it's gonna seem very strange and unknown. And now you've got one or two divers in a cage. Maybe he sees or senses that there's something inside moving. Does he dissociate divers with the cage? Probably not. So I don't think from seeing divers in a cage, the shark is gonna really recognize that creature from one that he sees swimming at the beach. It's gonna be two different items. If he sees the human in the cage, can he actually recognize the human he sees on the beach? The big problem with people at the beach is that they swim in very murky water. I mean, the shark is as blind as us. If the water is murky, he's not going to see us with his eyes. He's never actually going to see us the same way as he does when people in the cage, the visibility is relatively good. Now, a lot of the shark attacks have been blamed on mistaken identity, meaning that a surfer on a surfboard looks very similar to a seal at the surface. Say we have a shark around the island, he's here for a week. You might see a human for a few hours in that week. Say he leaves for a year, it's very likely for the next year he's not going to see a human till maybe he comes back here. The contact period that sharks have seeing humans or contact with bait and chub is too short. There are certain sharks that come back every 6-12 months for a few days, but that's only about 30% of the sharks. They come back, but they're not here long enough.
They're the most regular sharks.
Yeah.
There's impact studies being done on white shark cage diving every year, and every year it seems to prove that we do not have those impacts. So when we do make an impact that is negative, they would stop us. But in the meantime, we have to get a positive word through to as many people as possible.
The sharks are their own best PRs. By having people seeing how graceful and how unmonster-like they are, that's the best educational tool you can have. As long as the operators work properly with the sharks, I think that this wins against what the sharks would do if no boats were out there. Because in the long term, that the more people see the white sharks for what they truly are, the more people will fight for sharks and white sharks to survive. That's going to save the sharks.
Which is what is great about us coming to Hansby to interact with the whites. We see they are not so dangerous and learn new things about them. These sharks giving us an adventure of cherished wonder and exhilaration as we discover a newfound adoration for them. And we can tell the rest of the world how incredible but misunderstood this thrilling, magnificent shark is. Not a man-eating beast, but a majestic, breathtaking creature, deserving our respect and protection. Encouraging the rest of the world to see the truth about whites here themselves. And perhaps one day, great whites can look into us with some part of their brain understanding us as human beings from a different world. And our coexistence could move forward safely, maybe even symbiotically, scientifically benefiting each other, as Michael says. But with so many people working in different ways with whites, is this positive interaction or destructive interference? With some cage diving operations in the world run without care, having already harmed white sharks. And though tonic immobility with sample taking is said to have been done on other sharks safely, white sharks have a different physiology and are more resilient and vigorous. So trying tonic then injecting whites could cause them to thrash about and be injured. Also, cage diving, free diving and tonic immobility without precautions can cause great whites to attack people.
To be quite honest, I'm not an open supporter of freediving. At the end of the day, an accident can happen tomorrow. If that happens, the media will have a feast of it, and in the newspapers it will say, "Poor human was attacked by a monster of the ocean." Shark conservation will go backwards, the cage diving industry will be closed down, people won't see white sharks in the wild anymore. And that's it.
The only benefit to white sharks and positive human interactions is that it may discourage other people from killing them. But irresponsible interactions could kill great whites directly. Or if it does make whites harm us, we could hunt and kill them in response. The only way to interact with whites is to treat them with safety and respect, protecting us both. If we cannot, and if we truly care for great whites, the best we can do for them is just leave them completely alone. As man's relationship with these sharks hasn't brought a mutual prosperity, but has instead brought great whites close to extinction. White sharks killed by worldwide beach barriers, created to protect bathers from supposed shark attacks. These barriers unsustainably catching large numbers of great whites since their introduction in the 1930s. A terrifying threat to destroying great whites' population completely is industrial commercial fishing, especially the increasing shark fin fishing. With improved fishing methods, the expanding commercial fishing decimating great whites and a huge number of other sharks to critically low numbers, many species still decreasing to this day. Trophy sports fishing by recreational fishermen shows how the white shark has become a victim of its own myth as a killer of humans, making humans kill huge numbers of white sharks as a result. Shown in the sadistic Vic Hislop shark show in Hervey Bay, Australia. Vic Hislop, a world-famous shark hunter, genuinely hates white sharks, killing thousands of sharks for over 40 years. Vic gloatingly even has his slayed great whites on display, like trophies. In Miami, another famous shark hunter named Mark the Shark shares Vic's views that sharks are monsters to be destroyed. Mark fished white sharks in the past, saying he had white shark jaws in his office, but these were later stolen. Recreational fishermen worldwide have fished great whites to the very low numbers, highly influenced by the movie Jaws, which boomed shark fishing's popularity after its release, leading to the massacre of huge numbers of whites. Sports fishing has been possibly the biggest cause of death for this species. With humans killing white sharks at such a high rate, studies show their numbers shockingly declining in some regions by up to 95%. Figures from surveys are disputable, as some whites migrate to other regions and fishing efforts may lower, but these general declines are large enough for the International Union for Conservation of Nature to list white sharks as vulnerable to extinction in 1996, resulting in many countries protecting white sharks, such as South Africa, USA and Australia. And in 2004, white sharks were listed on CITES Appendix 2, making it illegal to export their body parts across any country's borders to be sold. This CITES law to discourage fishing great whites. But if you think these laws are successfully protecting white sharks, then you would be mistaken. Because despite fishermen stopping deliberate fishing of white sharks, these protections are not enforced, with some fishermen unaware of this law or ignoring it. So white sharks still get killed by humans, and by some methods even more than in the past. These kills could still be high enough to threaten great whites' population increasing, and could still push their numbers down, not just because their numbers are so low, but so is their reproduction rate. As females don't reach reproductive age until as late as 30 years old, and give birth to just a small number of surviving pups. If we are to return great whites to their original numbers, or stop them going down, we must understand what is still killing them. Such as sports fishermen still killing white sharks and poaching them for their jaws or fins. Though these recreational fishermen try to keep these illegal kills secret, some still get discovered. Meaning there must be more whites murdered that don't get found. And though fishermen in South Africa generally don't fish white sharks, there are still some sports fishermen illegally catching and landing whites here that may die as a result.
Over the past 10 years or so, there's been an ever-growing fraternity of people fishing for white sharks, sport fishing from shore, that thinks it's an achievement to land one of these sharks and doesn't really care that it's against the law, and also in some cases will kill the shark.
As even though fishermen may release white sharks as the law requires, scientists state that many of these sharks later die from lactic acid buildup or physical injuries. And with Chris believing up to 100 great whites have been landed each year, this could mean a high amount get killed. The abundance of great whites in Mossel Bay has led to Beacon Point to be where some anglers do illegally land them. One famous case is a confrontation between sports fisherman Leon Becker and white shark scientist Ryan Johnson.
Yeah, well, this area that I just showed you now is exactly where he brought the shark in. Ryan Johnson was here and he caught the guy in the act, dragging the shark across the rocks here and taking pictures of it. What he should have done is, when he realized it was a great white, which is very easy to realize when they get close, is to cut the line and set it free. And, well, there was a little bit of an altercation because of him damaging the sharks, and they obviously put the shark back once he took his pictures, and then Ryan reported him to the authorities. So it was the first time anybody's been convicted for this type of thing.
Though released, Ryan and other researchers believe as this shark was pulled by the gills and had been out of the water so long, it probably later died. Despite Becker's famous incident, white shark fishing still happens, as this law still is hardly policed in South Africa, due to a lack of government money and evidence from prosecutors to bring about convictions.
But it certainly is still going on, particularly in Mossel Bay and certain areas of False Bay as we speak. In 2013, a white shark was hauled up the rocks. The manner in which it was gaffed and the terrain over which it was hauled, I doubt that animal is still alive today.
With such little government enforcement, this fishing will still kill white sharks in the future here. But worse still is the South African government have found a way around their own great white protection to kill more of these sharks than any other threat in this country. This female juvenile white shark was drowned in the deadly beach nets run by this government. Set up to protect beach swimmers from sharks with the purpose of catching them, these nets had the more dangerous baited hook drum lines targeting larger sharks run a line of death 320 kilometres along the KwaZulu-Natal coast, including the beach nets in the city of Durban, a major tourist capital with a huge number of visitors each year. Some people say these barriers alone could stop white sharks from increasing their numbers in South Africa. As well as these barriers damaging other shark populations too, they also have a devastating bycatch of other sea creatures. Many people object to these barriers, horrifically killing sharks and other marine life, believing deterrents are unneeded anywhere in this country, and that great whites don't attack people like the myth states.
If we just look at this beach here, where we have hundreds and thousands of people on the beach at the moment, we have white sharks that most likely are patrolling behind those buoys, and nothing happened. If they were interested in people, we will have an attack every single hour, every single day, and we don't. So they're not looking for people. The swimmers that possibly in a chance to encounter a white shark, those sharks, they come within meters, even less than a couple of meters, but never attack people. Swimmers often do not even realize, and they just carry on. So there's very low probability of being attacked by a shark. And if you consider where it's safe to swim and where it's safe not to swim, the number of shark attacks will decrease to almost zero.
Is that Durban, you mean?
Yeah, this is Durban. So, do we have to be afraid of sharks? I'd rather say it's the other way around. Sharks that needs to be afraid of us. What the real issue is not how much the sharks are dangerous, but the perception of people. And that's what is in Durban with the shark nets. People feel so secure, but majority of the sharks, guess what? They're being caught on the inside, not on the outside.
As sharks do get past these nets, but don't attack bathers, this proves that this shark and others that spend hours horribly drowning in South Africa's nets really are tragically dying here for nothing.
The number of sharks attacked have decreased, but is it really ecologically viable? Killing hundreds and thousands of sharks per year, dolphins, whales, birds, turtles, to prevent 2 attacks or 1 attack per year or 1 attack every second year? We're removing more and more sharks, we're removing more and more whales, turtles, and sooner or later there won't be enough and you'll have an ecological disaster. So is there a price for that? No.
It was us who victimised this shark and put it here in the first place, by people in South Africa asking the government for these nets in the 1950s, unnecessarily killing many species. And with too few people who want these barriers gone, it is us who continue to kill white sharks and other sea life here. But the greatest killer of great whites today is something no law or fisherman can effectively stop, which is commercial fishing bycatch, the accidental catching of white sharks by this fishing for other sea life, such as fishermen finding and reporting this unintentionally caught great white in their nets in Fish-Hoek Coast, South Africa. Bycatch like this kills many more white sharks than any other threat, as this industrial fishing happens all over the world on a massive destructive scale, killing these vulnerable sharks wherever they are. And though some fishermen try to free a bicaught white that's still alive, most of these sharks already died underwater, making bycatch deaths nearly unstoppable. Bycatch now killing whites' population more than before their protection, as growing consumer demand has quadrupled commercial fishing in the last 50 years, resulting in overfishing, where much ocean life is now being killed faster than it can reproduce, with 90% of large predatory fish now gone. Baja California, Mexico has one of the highest white shark bycatches, with increased overfishing in the Sea of Cortez reducing sea life by 90% since the 1940s. Unintentionally catching so many great whites that Mexico listed them as endangered in 2002. But whites are still overly bycaught today, where a 2011 survey of Baja's northwest continental shelf alone revealed a staggering 186 dead bycaught great whites. Baja-born fishermen don't target white sharks and only catch them by accident, complying with protection law, trying to free live bycaught whites. But with so much overfishing, this high bycatch rate is a huge threat to Baja whites' already low numbers. Further bycatch in the Sea of Cortez and worldwide is from illegal fishing. Fishermen without permits fishing against the laws of different countries and catching protected sea life, such as this bycaught white in the Sea of Cortez, discovered by conservation group Sea Shepherd.
When I saw that this was actually a great white shark, it's just devastating to see such a beautiful, beautiful animal dead like that for nothing, for absolutely nothing. There was no reason for that to happen. It is believed the fishermen that are doing the illegal fishing come from other places and different areas of Mexico. And it's a very unfortunate situation because it's catching species that are endangered, and I mean to the brink of extinction. So the situation is quite grim up in the Sea of Cortez.
As they disobey protection laws, these pirate fishermen could be the hardest to prevent from killing great whites and other protected species. But bycatch may be killing even more of great whites' population than we realise, because there are many more unreported bycatches than authorities know about, leaving only a few word-of-mouth sources knowing of such catches. With some fishermen behaving illegally, dumping the sharks at sea or unreportedly landing them, sometimes to keep the fins and jaws. Such as arrests made over 2 apparently bycaught whites in the Gulf of Mexico, landed secretly, intended for sale to an international black market for these jaws. The illegal trade in great white jaws is so secret that there are other bycaught whites in this underground industry that authorities can't uncover. With not enough federal officers monitoring fishing or taking bribes from illegal fishermen, the unrecorded number of bycaught whites could be so high that bycatch alone could kill off white sharks altogether. Such hidden white shark bycatches are said to be evident in Baja's Ensenada fish market, where in recent years many shark experts and scientists have claimed to have seen great white carcasses illegally sold in this market, apparently being labelled as swordfish or marlin to hide their identity. If we can fully identify white shark carcasses and locate what fisheries they came from, we could find out how many white sharks are being caught by these fisheries and try to prevent these catches in the future. such as great whites believed to be bycaught by Ensenadas ponga boats, longline fishing blue sharks for the destructive shark fin industry. Over-demand from shark fin companies are to blame for this slaughter, forcing Baja fishermen since 1990 to 2011 to increase their blue shark fishing 10 times, increasing white shark bycatch too, many blue sharks being just pups. As these hooks are large enough to catch large blue sharks and mako sharks, it's thought they also catch the similar sized non-adult whites. These fins fill huge containers shipped to Asia, making a fortune for restaurants and suppliers, while Baja's shark fishermen earn as little as $1.60 per pound, barely earning a living. With little monitoring in this dock or elsewhere in the region, more whites could be killed in Baja than we know, joining other sharks slaughtered in the worldwide fin trade. Great whites bycaught by Baja's shark fishing, such as the Santa Maria shark camp in the Sea of Cortez, fishing thresher and hammerhead sharks, unintentionally catching whites. But as Baja's shark fishing isn't highly monitored, it kills a high number of whites not accounted for. As the shark fin industry has grown to such a massive scale that its genocidal killing of all sharks has reduced many species more than 95% in many regions, wastefully, just for shark fin soup consumption. Such as these blue sharks in the Vigo fish market, Spain. And though whites are not targeted by the fin trade, bycatch from any fishing that supplies shark fins is one of the biggest causes of white sharks' low numbers. As a shark fin trade is such a destructive size, killing up to 273 million sharks globally per year. This increased fishing killing an increased percentage of great whites now than in past decades. But this shark butchering may kill many more whites than are recorded. Since DNA analysis, ID fins from 21 great whites discovered from a seafood dealer in Brooklyn in 2004. This method, developed further by Dr. Damien Chapman's DNA analysis team, is still discovering great white fins in this trade. But as it said less than 5% of shark fins get DNA identified, every white shark fin ID'd means a larger number of them in circulation not discovered. Things could get worse for great whites and other sharks, as with a third of remaining shark species already close to extinction. Scientists say if the shark fin trade doesn't end, the great white and all sharks will be gone within a few decades. More danger for great whites from commercial fishermen deliberately killing live bycaught whites. Some fishermen rumoured or suggested to hunt these defenceless sharks to kill them. In Stewart Island, New Zealand, a man named Zane Smith has targeted and killed white sharks since around 2013. Doing so to stop the opposed cage diving operations there. Many deliberate white shark kills spurred on by the high price of their jaws and fins. Such as in South Africa, even in places like Hans Bay, there are stories of poachers targeting and killing white sharks. Right in the same waters where cage operators are trying to protect them.
There are some guys killing them here locally. to sell the jaws for the teeth. There is a market for it. And to kill a white shark here is not that difficult. It's one of the easiest sharks to kill.
The worrying fishery is actually the poaching for great whites that appears to be taking place in certain areas, particularly the Dyer Island Channel at night. I've heard from various sources the abalone poachers go out there at night, set baited drum lines, catch the sharks, cut out their jaws, cut off their fins and dump the carcasses. They found terminal tackle, very large hooks with chains and floats in Gansbaai. So it appears that it does happen. And it's the abalone poachers that seem to be doing this in Gansbaai. In 2013, there was a white shark that washed up on Dyer Island that nobody knew why it died. The only reason they really washed up was because of some sort of chronic trauma that had so much lactic acid that they just died.
Chris has twice taken great white carcasses to marine and coastal management, asking for action. And other shark operators are still reporting great white poachings to the government. But these authorities have done nothing, and so signs remain that these incidences still continue here. So with these worldwide threats, do recent studies show if our protections have actually increased great white numbers or not? The Mediterranean used to have one of the largest abundances of white sharks, but with so much overfishing, scientists' studies state that as well as hardly any whites being left, their population is still decreasing. But despite this, whites are neglectfully only nationally protected in a handful of countries. Worldwide study methods and figures are debated for accuracy. But global results indicate that white shark numbers overall show little to no increase. So in this respect, it seems our protections still have a long way to go to save great whites. It's projected that if overfishing continues at its current rate, world food fisheries will collapse entirely by 2048. This increasing fishing pressure will hit these struggling white sharks harder and could bring their population closer to collapse too. So it's a tragedy how us killing them is wasting all the good things this animal can do for us. We have been given this wonderful creature, giving us so much astonishment and joy. And whilst nature can be cruel, within this top apex predator benefits us in what it does, like keeping sea life populations at healthy levels, as without great whites, a catastrophic food chain imbalance can be created. But we butchered all the help and pleasure the great white gives us, and cast down this king of the ocean to be just a victim of human destruction. Now nearly gone, its weakened population so low that it may never fully recover. White sharks' vulnerable numbers could actually go down further, leaving a threat that these suffering sharks could die off completely, and we will lose these magnificent animals forever. Our negative interactions will continue killing white sharks. But if we act upon our positive interactions, we could stop these kills and help recover their fragile population. Such as by making the Natal Sharks Board, who maintain South Africa's shark barriers, remove them, but only if enough people force them to.
Yeah, I think it's very unfortunate. I don't particularly like the fact that we end up having to kill sharks, but it's not for the sharks group to say, we're taking the nets out. It's the politicians who've got to make the call. Initially, it would be in response to public pressure. If the populace say shark nets, they must go, and the politicians are convinced of that, then they will obviously support that viewpoint.
Meanwhile, public influence has made Jeremy Cliff and his science division try to replace these nets and drum lines with an electric barrier to deter sharks without harm.
We've realised for a long time shark nets are obviously detrimental to sharks. So there's certainly the pressure to come up with some form of more environmentally acceptable alternative. Therefore, the first prize would be keeping humans and sharks apart without having to kill sharks. Sharks are very sensitive to electric fields, which enable us to take an electrical shark repellent into a cable on the seabed and then have cabling coming up.
Jeremy plans to use this barrier at other beaches in the world, but this deterrent also can be used for fishing vessels to stop great white bycatches. This technology to save whites and humans could create a safe coexistence for us both. In Baja California, conservationists are trying to rescue ocean life and white sharks, placing observers on ships and posters in camps and ports, encouraging fishermen unaware of white shark protections to free live caught whites. Paying fishermen to let sharks be freed from their lines, implementing a 3-month shark fishing ban each year to prevent white sharks and other shark populations falling even more. Attempts to lower overfishing can save whites and struggling poor fishermen by employing them in more sustainable aquaculture fish farming, like Ensenada's tuna pen and shrimp farming, and fishermen also working in ecotourism, such as shark diving. Less people fishing means less great whites being fished. But it will take a long time before all these protection measures will stop white sharks getting killed.
The government of Mexico is actually doing a really good job trying to give the fishing villages and the communities other occupations, but obviously is very difficult because those things normally don't change in a very short time. There's a lot of work that needs to be done.
Baja's overfishing is too big and is killing sharks too overwhelmingly. And Jeremy Cliff's deterrent's still not ready too. With so few people to help great whites and so many people destroying them, is there no way we can stop these vulnerable animals being entirely killed off by us? If anyone is to save great whites, it has to be us. As preserving whites cannot work without everyday people like ourselves. More of us with love for white sharks means more people advocating for more countries to give national protections, more enforcements of laws, safer beach protections, and more ways to prevent bycatch. Our support can be inspired by interactions such as in Hans Bay.
Let people view the animal and hopefully go away and be ambassadors for these animals. It's ordinary people that will make the difference.
We just need to see the truth about white sharks with our interactions and this will develop our care for them. This is how we can end the killing of whites. Helping whites return to their original numbers maybe, and we can further our relationship with them as we get to know and benefit each other more. If we don't try to save them, then the whites will disappear, and none of us will be able to see them anymore.